Kia ora guys, welcome back to another video. As I'm recording this, no further updates in terms of big trades and sends and signings. So I thought now would be a good time. We're 2 weeks out from the NRL season starting, and I'm going to make a ladder prediction. Now, I've yet to see one that has been super accurate in the last 5 years, so please do forgive me. If you have your opinions, do feel free to leave them in the comments down below. But yeah, without further ado, I think we will guess we'll start off with the first one. Let's start from the bottom and we'll go work our way up. In 17th, Wooden Spooners, I've got the Dragons. Look, I don't see much changing for them this year, unfortunately. They've got all the pieces, but I think the thing that says it all, in my opinion anyway, personally, is the fact they got rid of someone who's been with that club for many years, in Jack de Bellingham. And no one really batted an eyelid at the club, and I think that really just talks about their culture, first of all, and also their desire to play finals footy. If they're willing to get rid of a player who would put their heart and soul into it so much that he was kind of known as the Dragon, I don't think it's much of a shock that I'm putting the Dragons into 17th. And I just don't see a world where they make finals footy this year at all. I just can't see it happening at all. So that's why I'm putting them at 17th. Yeah, I do believe they will be Wooden Spooners this year. And at 16th, controversially, I've got Sea Eagles. Look, I think Manly are really going to struggle without, Daly Cherry Evans kind of being there and being their marquee. But I wouldn't be surprised if they go top 12. Will they play finals footy? I don't think so. I don't reckon they will make finals footy. Don't get me wrong, they've got all the pieces to do it, and if they make finals footy, then it's not the biggest shock in the world. But I just think with the year they've had in the last 12 months, even though they brought in Luke Brooks, I just don't see them doing as well as they probably should with the stars they've got. But that's once again, guys, this is my opinion, right? Like everyone's entitled to their own opinion, and I think a lot of people will probably have a different say on what the outcome is. But in my opinion, I've got Sea Eagles 16th, and I just don't see a world where they. Same with the Dragons. I just don't see a world where they play finals footy this year. And in 15th, even more controversially, I've got the Parramatta Eels. I think Mitchell Moses is one of the best halves in the world. I think he's an incredible player, and I think he's got everything that it takes to be the star of the show. And I think he is obviously the star in Parramatta, and I don't think anyone is even close to overtaking him on that. I think there was potential for names like Zach Lomax to potentially become the name of the team, but with off-season duties coming into play, it's likely that Lomax will not return to the Eels. In fact, he won't. But I just don't think I don't think Mitchell Moses has enough firepower around him to make a solid push at the top 8. And once again, this is very similar to the Sea Eagles. I just don't think. I don't think I'd be surprised if they made top 10, potentially top 8. But with the Parramatta front office kind of going through all this drama with Zach Lomax, I just think they kind of missed the button with trying to sign players or trying to bring in or even develop more players that they did last year. And that's it. I just don't see them in a world where they finish top 8 personally. In 14th, I've got the West Tigers. I've said it. I've said it to some friends, and I'll say it here as well. I think the minute you put a player with an ego bigger than the game, I think is the moment you start struggling. Um, you look at the likes of Penrith. They've got Nathan Cleary, who was by far in a day the best half in the game, but he doesn't present himself like he is. He doesn't brag about it on social media. He doesn't, um, you get my point. And the fact of the matter is, I said all that without saying this player's name, and everyone knows what I'm talking about. And I think that will be the big turning point for the West Tigers. They've got some incredible talent at that team. The likes of the May brothers, the likes of the Fainu brothers, the likes of Jareem Buller, Adam Dewey. And I think I was very tossy and turny about this. I personally think if they remove Jerome Luai, not even moved him to the bench, I think you would have a better opportunity of making a solid push, because removing him from the first team, putting him on the bench, takes away that almost egotistical thought process of I'm getting in the first team every week, because that means he thinks he's bigger than the game and he's not, and that kind of irks me. So it's a little bit of a personal thing. I think he's a great player, but his attitude is what is his downfall. And say what you will, but I just don't see a world where Tigers make a competitive push to the top 8, with ego being the main driver of that team. So that's my opinion on that one. Number 13, finishing in 13th in my opinion, I have Newcastle. Now, this is one of the teams where I genuinely think they could make a honest push at top 8, maybe top 6. But I just don't see them doing it. I think Kalen Ponga being chopped and changed last year, being there was so many off-season rumours about who they were going to play in the halves. They can never really come to that agreement, and I just don't see a world where that helps the team in any way. And I just don't think they will make the push that they probably should do, and to be honest, they could do, but they just won't. And that's my opinion on that one. I think the Knights will finish 13th. Now in 12th, this is a tough one. Looking at it again, I would probably put the Titans a bit further up, but I just, with the loss of the likes of David Fafita, I just don't think they can realistically bounce back from it. I mean, up until about 4 days ago, as of the time of recording this, it was uncertain if Tino was going to return to the team. And I just don't think that helps the team morale, and I think team morale is a big part of succeeding, and I think is a big part of winning. But I could be proven wrong, and I could be happy about that. I really want the Titans to do well. I think they honestly could make a solid push, and I wouldn't be surprised. But yes, that's who I've got. I've got Titans at 12th. And at 11th, I have the reigning minor premiers. I have the Canberra Raiders. it's an interesting one. Obviously, last year they kind of proved the world wrong. Everyone thought they were going to be bottom seeded. I think everyone that I talked to, everyone that I knew before the season started last year, had them 14th, 15th. Some had 16th, and I had a few that were even wooden spooners, but they proved everyone wrong. But the unfortunate thing is lightning doesn't strike twice, and I don't think they've got. I mean, then again, with the players they've got, the likes of Kyo Weeks, the likes of Joe Tapine, the likes of Civilio Tamale, like Sebastian Chris, I think I think they could make a really, really good push for the top eight. But I think the teams that I've got in the top eight, I think will probably just outdo it, and that's the reason I've got them at 11th. Is I think the teams above them, I think, are just better, both looking into this year and just overall as a whole. But yes, I have the Raiders at 11th this year. At 10th, I have the Rabbitohs, I have the Bunnies. Again, I think they can make a solid push at the top eight, but I think the teams that are there above them are probably looking a bit better off. The Rabbitohs have such a good core in their team this year, and you got Jai Arrow, you've got David Fafita, you've got Jamie Humphrey, who's slowly turning into a really good half. Latrell Mitchell is looking like Latrell of old, and it's really exciting for Rabbitohs fans. But I just don't think they're quite there yet. I think next year when we do this again, touch wood, I do this next year, I think it's a whole different story. I think with Payne Haas, I think is a freaky, freaky addition. And, if you haven't seen that, go check out my last video. I'll leave a wee tab somewhere, anywhere on the video. Just feel free to watch that after this. Anyway, yeah, I think the Rabbitohs are looking really good for next year, but I think this year they might struggle a little bit, but I think it'll be a really good foundation for what's to come next year for South Sydney fans. In at 9th this year, I have the Sharks. To be honest, looking back and thinking about what's going on, I would probably put the Rabbitohs at 8th, and then the team I've got at 8th at 10th, but I've already made it. It is what it is. Sharks, for some reason, I don't know what it is, but every single year they manage to find themselves somewhere in the 9, 8, 7 slot, and they've done themselves very solidly throughout the year. I think they go under the radar a wee bit more than the rest of the teams, but whatever it is in Cronulla, whether it's the cohesion, the culture, the dynamics, whatever is going on there, they've done a very fantastic job of making sure it works to them and to their ability. And they lose a couple games here and there, but they always make it back double towards the end of the season. And for some reason, it just works, and they do it every year. And I would probably venture to say I'm going to be wrong on the Sharks. I would imagine the Sharks probably going to finish 4th or 5th, but for the purpose of the video, I'm putting the Sharks at 9th. Now to the top 8. In 8, I've got the Cowboys. I don't really have a rhyme or reason putting the Cowboys in the 8th spot. I personally think Scott Drinkwater is one of the best fullbacks in the game. I think he flies under the radar because he's not the quickest. He's not the most technical. He's not the flashiest. I just don't think. I just don't think there's many fullbacks that are as clean cut and as driven as him. I just don't. And Tommy Dearden's about to have, I think, probably the best year of his career. I would imagine, touch wood, he stays healthy and happy, and He's all good to go. And then you got the likes of Griffin Neame, who's finding his feet. Helam Lukey. Ruben Cotter is looking really good in the off season. I think he's probably going to stand out this year as well. And I think this is the year that they kind of make that push for the top 8 and do it with an absolute force. And I would imagine, Murray Taulagi, all those boys are looking really good and looking really fit, and they're likely to play a big role in the Cowboys season this year. Which brings me to 7th. In 7th, of course, as you can see, I have the Dolphins. I think Redcliffe are going to absolutely shine again this year. Last year, they went on an absolute tear and were rolling. Nobody was stopping them. A few unfortunate turns of the coin, and that happens. But the likes of Herbie Farnworth, Jermaine Asako, you've got so many options playing in the back at the moment, and Isaiah Katoa had, what some might say was an MVP year, and I wouldn't argue with it at all. Ray Stone. You've got the likes of Mark Nichols. You've got the likes of all those boys. Regardless, all those boys that are in that team, I think are working really well together, and I don't see it changing anytime soon. And I would, argue, Hammer's coming into his own again. But yes, I will put the Dolphins at 7, but I wouldn't be surprised if they make a push for a bit higher up in any case. Moving on to 6. In 6, I have the Roosters. Look, I don't think there's much we can say on that, right? You've got so many players in that team who are absolute class. Mark Nawangiti Tawaze, it's his final year before he returns to rugby union. James Tedesco coming off the back of a Dally M year. You've got so many players that are so good. DCE, he's coming in. Robson's made his way over. Connor Watson is shining again. Off the back of a pretty stellar State of Origin year for him. Look, I Robert Toyer, has been phenomenal last year. I mean, he got an Origin call up. I wouldn't be surprised if the Roosters make a top 4, but at this stage, I'm putting Roosters at 6, and I've only got to look up from here as well. So, yes, that is my prediction on 6 onto the 5th. My top 4 are kind of not obvious, but they're kind of stock standard, and you can tell who I've got where at this point. I'd imagine Bulldogs at 5th. They started off the season strong. They went on an unbeaten streak, and they clinched that first spot for many, many, many weeks until, for whatever reason it was, Toby Sexton got dropped, and I think it cost them a game big time. I think, in my honest opinion, I think the Bulldogs aren't going to make the top 8 at all, but I really like that team. I really like who they've got, where they've got them. Crichton, centre of the year, however many years in a row. Matt Burton is running the ship, and as much as I don't like Lockie Galvin, because I don't, I think he's another one of the Jerome Luais. It's kind of ironic they put them in the same team, and Lockie Galvin became the bigger diva of the two. But I think with the players they've got and the pieces they're building, I genuinely think they'll make a push for the top 4. I just don't think they'll quite get it. They're likely to finish 7th, so this list is a bit skew-with. But for now, at this stage, I'm going to put them at 5th, and we'll move on to the top 4. 4th, I have Panthers. I think Penrith will obviously get top 4 for however many years in a row, and in fact, last year they didn't, did they? But I personally just don't. I don't see a world where Panthers don't finish in the top 8, let alone sorry, I don't see a world where Panthers don't finish top 4, let alone top 8. Last year was a bit of a different story, but I think this year they kind of come back to what they were originally. The loss of a few players have obviously cost them, but I think with Jack Cogger making his return to Penrith, I honestly just don't see a world where you get a better half pairing than that. And they make a genuine threat to the top 4, and that's probably where I'm going to sit with that one. I think the top 4, personally, in my opinion, anyway, I would have clear cut top 4, but then again, it's the NRL. I don't think anyone in history had Raiders in their top 4, but that's life, right? But yes, I have the Panthers top 4, and I think it's pretty self-explanatory in my opinion. In third, I have the Warriors. Little bit of bias here. I am Kiwi, but Metcalf, up until his injury, was 110% the halfback of the year, and I don't think anyone could argue with that. Mitch Barnett was making his case for prop of the year alongside Payne Haas, but injury kind of derailed that as well. And I think with the pieces that the Warriors have and the pieces that the Warriors are building, I just don't think it's that hard of an argument to put Warriors in the top 4. When Metcalf comes back, I believe he's coming back in round 7, I think. And Mitch Barnett comes back in round, might be the same, round 4 or 5. I think from that point on, it's clockwork for them. Who they play in the halves before that is yet to be seen. I'll probably go Harris Tavita and Tamara Martin, but then again, I'm not the coach. I haven't seen what's going on behind the scenes, so yes. I would also, controversially, this is probably going to rub some people the wrong way, but I'd probably put Tane Tuapiki at the fullback role and move Charles Nickel-Klokstad into the centres alongside Adam Pompey. Rocco Berry's injured. Who knows how long he's out for. And then the wingers are kind of clear cut at this stage, I would imagine, if Tane's not going on a wing. The addition of Lofiana Camperera, I think, is the biggest addition of the season this far. The main thing that they were missing was speed, realistically. Dallin has speed. Dallin Watene-Zelezniak is a very fast runner, but he's not that quick when you compare him to players like AKP and Hammer and Jason Saab, for example. I think when you put them next to them, it's not that close. But Khan Pereira, I think, is probably the fastest player in the league right now. You put him up against Jason Saab, Dom Young, Fox, anyone, and he probably holds his own, probably wins as well. And I think that is a big addition. I think it's probably the most beneficial addition of any team this season. And I think it's going to prove that. I think this year they will get the top 3. Finishing runners-up to the minor premiership this year, I have the Brisbane Broncos. Look, I think off the back of a phenomenal year for them, obviously winning the premiership, I would venture to say that they'll have a stellar year, and I don't think anyone can argue with that. It's Payne Haas's last year with the club. It's Adam Reynolds' last year with the club. I think they'll put everything, heart and soul, into the season, and they'll probably push for a minor premiership. I wouldn't be surprised if they swap with the Storm, who have got one, obviously, as you can deduct. And I would venture to say that Reece Walsh probably has a Dally M year. You could argue that they will go 1. I wouldn't be surprised. But, you know, Shibasaki, again, State of Origin year. Katoni Staggs was one of the best centres in the league last year, besides maybe Herbie and Crichton. The pieces in in Brisbane are so well set. They've got Dean Mariner. They've got Paddy Carrigan, who was just doing bits, whether he's playing in the prop role, whether he's playing in the lock role, whether he's playing in second row. It doesn't matter. He's phenomenal. My only concern with them is the hooker role. Right, they've got so many. They've got very little options, I should say, and whether they, if they weather the storm with Ben Hunt, then it could be worth it in the long run. But with Billy Walters kind of sitting on the sideline and being a big part of why they're so successful this kind of last 3 years, who knows where they go and who knows what they move into, and hopefully they make a good push and make an exciting finals again, and we'll see what happens. But moving on to number one, it's quite obvious. If you hadn't figured it out yet, I had Melbourne Storm at number one. Look, I think the only thing they're going to struggle with is Ryan Papenhuyzen being moved on. Well, not moved on. Ryan Papenhuyzen retiring, quote unquote. Shout out the 167 podcast, by the way. I listened to it. Lovely. Look, Cam Munster's coming back a different man. Jerome Hughes is coming back healthy. And the pieces they've got, Uta Kamanu, Liero's coming back. I would say they're going to make the best push, I think, at running out in first. And I think they'll become minor premiers. And to be honest, I just don't see much else happening with the Storm. If they don't get top 8, it's probably a catastrophic failure. If it turns out they don't get top 8, then I would imagine they would push to try their hardest to get Ryan Papenhuyzen back, whatever means necessary at that stage. But I think Suafā Longaw's probably looking at the one, and who knows what happens, right? Nick Meaney is a phenomenal player who can probably back them up. But yes, at this stage, I have the Storm as the minor premiers. Look, that's it. That's my list. That's all I've got. If you enjoy this video, please remember to like, comment what you thought, what your predicted ladder is, and remember to subscribe. If you didn't like the video, remember to hit that dislike button twice, just so I know. And yeah, thanks very much for watching, guys. Let me know what you think. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.